The alert pinged softly on my laptop screen that crisp autumn morning in Seattle, right as I was nursing my second black coffee from the corner roastery. It wasn't a blaring siren, nothing so dramatic, but a subtle red flag in my custom dashboard, an unauthorized root access attempt. Not from some offshore hacker, but from inside the house. The requester? Jordan Hale, our shiny new VP of Operations. Fresh off a stint at a Silicon Valley unicorn that had imploded spectacularly last quarter. His credentials were trying to burrow into the core infrastructure I'd architected. Like a kid jimmying a lock on a bike he thought was abandoned. I didn't slam my mug down or curse under my breath. Instead, I leaned back in my ergonomic chair, the one I'd splurged on after pulling too many all-nighters, and took a slow breath. This wasn't panic, it was recognition. The kind that settles in your gut when you see a storm cloud forming on a clear day. I'd poured my soul into building Apex Nexus for Cascade Tech 5 years back. During those frantic growth spurts when the company was scaling from a garage startup to a mid-cap player in cloud analytics. Back then, the servers were a mess. Patchwork hardware choking on data loads. Downtime eating profits like termites. I wasn't just the lead engineer, I was the visionary who saw the fix. Late nights in my home office, coding modular frameworks that could handle petabytes without breaking a sweat. But I didn't build it as an employee perk. No. I spun it off into my own LLC, Sentinel Core, licensing it back to Cascade on a quarterly basis. It was airtight, they got seamless uptime. I retained control. The board loved it, called it a strategic external buffer against breaches or buyouts. Legal vetted every comma. And the CEO initialed it with a grin, slapping my back like I'd just handed him the keys to Fort Knox. Jordan, though, he reeked of overconfidence from day one.
Tall.
Gelled hair. Always in those slim-fit suits that screamed, I read one too many business memoirs. He waltzed into the open-plan office like he owned the skyline, dropping terms like disruptive synergy in stand-ups. By lunch on his second day, he'd already reorganized my team's Jira board without asking, adding flair like neon sticky notes on a blueprint. Then came the Slack message, blunt as a hammer. Need full admin creds to the stack. Running an efficiency audit. No hello. No context. Just entitlement wrapped in corporate jargon. I stared at it for a beat, feeling that slow simmer start in my chest, the kind that builds when someone assumes your life's work is their playground. I didn't fire back immediately. Instead, I screenshot it, emailed it to my attorney, Elena, with a neutral subject, access request, review clause 2.4. Then I replied to Jordan. Hi Jordan. Per the licensing agreement between Cascade Tech and Sentinel Core LLC, admin access is restricted to the licensor unless board approved in writing. His response came in under a minute. All caps for emphasis. This isn't optional. Escalating. I could almost hear the smirk in his typing. That false bravado of someone who's never had to debug a cascading failure at dawn. But me? I'd engineered every failsafe, every redundancy. This wasn't a game to me, it was survival. The system wasn't just code, it was my independence. My shield against the corporate churn that had chewed up friends in the industry. As the day wore on, I felt the tension coil tighter. Whispers in the break room, Jordan pulling IT folks into side chats, muttering about legacy roadblocks. My phone buzzed with a text from a colleague in finance. Heads up. He's digging into old contracts like it's buried treasure. I nodded to myself, archiving the Slack thread. Let him dig. He'd find granite, not gold. By evening, as rain pattered against my apartment window, I reviewed the original agreement again, those pages I drafted with Elena over endless Zoom calls. Clause by clause. It was ironclad. No transfers without consent. Penalties for unauthorized attempts. It wasn't about hoarding power. It was about protecting what I created from hotshots like him. That night, sleep came fitful, dreams laced with server lights blinking warnings. But underneath the unease was a quiet resolve. This was just the beginning of the pushback, and I was ready to hold the line. The next morning brought the first real escalation. An invite landed in my calendar. Urgent infra alignment, no agenda. Just Jordan's name and the CTO. Sarah. CC'd like reluctant backup. I printed a fresh copy of the license, highlighted, tabbed, and slipped it into my messenger bag. Walking into the glass-walled conference room, I caught Jordan's eye, that predatory gleam, legs crossed, coffee in hand like he was interviewing me for my own job. Sarah looked uncomfortable, fiddling with her pen. We're streamlining ops, Jordan launched in without preamble. Full visibility into the stack is non-negotiable. I slid the document across the table. This stack is licensed IP, not internal. Access violates terms unless the board signs off. He waved it away, chuckling. Come on, we're all on the same team. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. That's when the simmer turned to a low boil inside me. His dismissiveness, it wasn't just rude, it was ignorant, blind to the sweat equity I'd invested. Sarah cleared her throat, but Jordan pressed on. If we can't audit, we might need to rethink this whole setup. Threat laced with a smile. I stood, gathering my things. Lupin legal before rethinking anything. As I left, the door clicking shut behind me, I heard Sarah murmur something low and urgent. My heart pounded, but not from fear, from the adrenaline of standing firm. Back at my desk, Elena's reply email glowed. No breach on your end. Terms hold. I filed it away, the coil tightening further. Jordan thought he could bulldoze. He had no idea the foundation was mine, and it was built to withstand far worse than him. The weekend blurred into a haze of preparation. My living room turning into a war room of sorts, laptop open, printed emails scattered like fallen leaves, a pot of coffee perpetually brewing. Jordan's access attempts hadn't stopped. My logs showed 2 more probes, each one documented meticulously in my compliance journal. No alarms triggered publicly, that was by design. I'd coded the system to whisper alerts only to me, a silent guardian against exactly this kind of internal threat. But the silence from Cascade's side was deafening, broken only by a cryptic Slack from Sarah. Let's chat Monday. Things are clarifying. That word hung in the air like fog over Puget Sound, thick with unspoken regret. Monday dawned gray and relentless, mirroring the knot in my stomach. I arrived early, settling into my cubicle with a view of the bustling downtown streets below. By 10 a.m., Elena forwarded an internal memo she'd been looped into, Jordan rallying procurement to review vendor dependencies. Vendor. As if Sentinel Core was some third-party plugin, not the backbone carrying their entire operation. Payroll integrations, client dashboards, even the CRM all routed through my frameworks. Without it, they'd be back to spreadsheets and crossed fingers. I felt a pang of something close to pity for the teams who'd suffer if it escalated, but it was overshadowed by the slow-building fury at Jordan's hubris. He'd never asked how it worked, never appreciated the elegance of the hybrid cloud I'd engineered during those 18-hour days when Cascade was on the brink. Then came the email chain, Jordan CCing half the exec team, framing me as the obstacle. Operational transparency blocked by external licensing hurdles. Proposing immediate internalization. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, temptation to retort bubbling up. But no, I forwarded it to Elena instead. Handle per protocol. Her response was swift, a formal notice to Cascade's general counsel, reiterating terms and attaching audit logs. Any further attempts constitute breach. I leaned back, exhaling slowly, feeling the pressure mount like a storm front. Jordan's reply to the chain was predictable. This is agile business, not red tape. Let's align.
Align.
His favorite buzzword, wielded like a shield against accountability. By midday, the office buzzed with undercurrents. A dev from my team sidled up during lunch. Heard Jordan's on a witch hunt. You good? I nodded, forcing a smile. Just paperwork, but inside, emotions churned, frustration at being painted the villain, pride in my foresight. I'd started Sentinel not out of greed, but wisdom. Tech eats its own. I'd seen colleagues ousted after building empires, their code absorbed and forgotten. This LLC was my moat, drawn from hard lessons. As the afternoon dragged, Sarah pulled me into a side office. Her face was drawn, eyes avoiding mine at first. Jordan's pushing hard. Board might get involved. I slid her a copy of the agreement. They already did when they signed this. She scanned it,
sighing.
He didn't read it. Thought it was internal. That admission hung heavy. A crack in the facade. I felt the damming of tension, ready to burst. Tuesday brought the deluge. Jordan scheduled a crisis huddle, inviting legal this time. I walked in prepared. Heart steady, but pulse quickening. He dominated the room. Slides flashing, graphs of efficiency gaps, arrows pointing to my stack like accusations. We can't scale with silos. Silos. My life's work reduced to a farm metaphor. Elena joined via video, her voice cutting through. This isn't a silo. It's licensed IP. Clause 3.1 prohibits unauthorized access. Jordan scoffed, leaning forward. We're the client. We demand visibility. Demand. The word echoed, igniting that slow burn into sparks. I spoke calmly. Your licensees, not owners. Push this. And Clause 4.7 kicks in service suspension rights. The room stilled. Sarah paled. Legal nodded grimly. Jordan's jaw tightened, that charismatic mask slipping to reveal the insecurity beneath. As the meeting dissolved in awkward murmurs, I stepped out, adrenaline surging. Back home that night, rain lashing the windows. I poured a glass of wine and reflected. This wasn't just about code. It was human, ego clashing with integrity. Jordan represented every ladder climber who'd stepped on others. I was the quiet force who'd built her own ladder. Elena called. They're scrambling. Internal audits show no ownership transfer. I nodded to the empty room, the coil winding tighter. Whispers reached me. Jordan digging through archives. Frantic emails flying. He was unraveling. And the bung no was coming. The turning point hit like a thunderclap on Wednesday. Buried in the fine print of Clause 5.2 that Elena unearthed during her deep dive. Hostile demands without consent allow immediate revocation, she read over the phone. Her tone laced with quiet triumph. You've got 48 hours from his first attempt to pull the plug legally. 48 hours. The clock had been ticking since that initial slack, and now it was a bomb with a short fuse. I sat on my couch, staring at the city lights twinkling below, a mix of vindication and dread washing over me. This power, it wasn't something I sought. But damn if it didn't feel right in my hands after years of being undervalued. Cascade's panic rippled out in waves. By Thursday, internal chats I'd been discreetly tipped off about showed frenzy, dependency risk critical, rebuild contingencies. Jordan was at the epicenter, firing off memos like distress signals, still framing it as modernization opportunities. But the tone shifted, less bluster, more desperation. Sarah confided in a hushed call. He's in over his head. Founder wants a briefing. The founder, Mia, was a legend, bootstrapped Cascade from nothing, sharp as a blade. If she got involved, heads would roll. I felt the emotional weight, relief that truth was surfacing, anger at the disruption. My system hummed on, oblivious. But I knew one command could darken their world. Friday's board prep meeting, from what leaks reached me, was a bloodbath. Jordan presented glossy decks, path to internal sovereignty. Midway, legal interjected, projecting the agreement. This exposes us to shut down liability. Mia's voice cut in via speaker. Explain the access demands. Jordan stammered. Charisma crumbling. Assumed internal. Assumed. The word that undid empires. I wasn't there, but imagining his face reddening, eyes darting, brought a grim satisfaction. Emotions surged, the slow build of years defending my work erupting into this moment of reckoning. Weekend silence was ominous. Elena drafted our response, a notice of potential suspension. Send if they push. But they didn't. Monday's email from Jordan was a white flag, eager to collaborate under terms. Too late, the dawn peaked. I authorized the notice. Heart pounding. The bung no was here. The notice landed like a grenade in their inbox Tuesday morning. Elena's wording precise. Further breaches trigger clause 5.2, service halt imminent. Chaos ensued. Logs showed frantic activity, no changes. Just views. Like they feared touching the beast. Jordan's emails turned pleading. Let's discuss alignment. Alignment, his crutch word. Now a beggar's plea. I felt the emotional release. The bung no washing over me in waves of justified fury and calm resolve. By Wednesday, Mia called personally. We value your partnership. Stand down. I paused, letting the silence speak. Honor the terms, she sighed. Understanding. Jordan was isolated. Whispers of his exit circulating. The power shift was palpable, leaving me with a quiet high. Thursday's board meeting sealed it. Jordan's pitch faltered under scrutiny. Mia dismantled him clause by clause. Confidence, without comprehension, ends careers. He was gone by Friday. A bland newsletter note his epitaph. I signed a renewed license, beefed fees. Ironclad protections. Mia's message. Thanks for safeguarding our foundation. As systems hummed on, I pondered the ethics. Was power's quiet hold a virtue or a vice? The question lingered, a haunting echo in the corporate void.